Hilliard. I'm the co-director of the Béal Festival with David Bremner, and we're delighted to have put on this festival of Jennifer Walshe's vocal ensemble music here in the Project Arts Centre. Jennifer Walshe is an inspiration. She's an amazing vocalist. I first came across her work in Hilltown New Music Festival, I think about 6 or 7 years ago. I just thought she was absolutely phenomenal. Just her style of performance, the things she brings to, like, just from free improv, and she brings like how she's working with the whole space when she's performing. It's not just her beside the microphone, it's like she's engages with the audience. She really kind of brings everyone into her work. So I first came across her and I just thought, you know, I knew she was this phenomenal composer. She wrote a lot of music for her own voice, but I first came across her vocal ensemble music then, I think 2012.
His name a scarecrow running round the town, all the girls to smile at him that hold me as his frown.
When I was feeling so lonely, I looked up on the internet to see if I could be a special constable, a special constable.
For me, it's really been an absolutely fantastic week. To come back to Ireland, I'm from Ireland, I love it, I try to be here as much as I can, but to come back and work with singers and work with Liz has just been amazing. I think it's made me feel that there's been a real shift in Ireland of really deeply rigorous, really well trained experimental vocal practice starting to come in with Liz working with Béal, and also with Tonta who sort of were invited to do a performance today, and that makes me really excited for what's going to happen in Ireland in terms of vocal work, in terms of what opera could mean when you have all these singers at such a high standard doing really, really amazing work. The first piece that you heard downstairs was from that project. It was called Folk Song Collection, and it was me going around London writing down little bits of weird text I heard on the street or I read in tweets or something like that, but just sort of over a period of time jotting these all down and trying to think, what would a new folk song sound like? And he came to me, a bold rat in the mud. He whispered to me, he came to me.
So myself and David talked last summer and we decided to go for putting on this festival in the Project Arts Centre, and Cian was really taken with the idea. So we planned it to have these pop-up performances in the afternoon, because she's smaller works, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. It'd be nice to perform them in a kind of, we did one every 20 minutes. So the audience kind of followed us around the building, and we think that worked really well. You kind of really felt you were part of the audience. At one point Sarah was walking in around, kind of rubbing this rock between her hands, and two rocks between her hands, and just walking through the space and kind of making the performance area, sharing the space with performers and with the audience.
Daddy fell into the pond, then Daddy fell into the...
I'm David Bremner, co-director of Béal. For this project, we were really happy to be working with the Project Arts Centre and to be presenting the programme there. We found it really interesting to be using the public spaces for some of the performances. I found Jennifer's music came across really interestingly in those spaces. It makes sense for the type of composer that she is. Her music's not stuck in an ivory tower, it's about relating to the world that we live in and sort of doing highly structured, interesting pieces that relate to that world. So for me it was satisfying to present the works in a space that's facing out onto the street in Temple Bar, you know, with tourists walking by. It seems a natural fit, I think, for those type of pieces. As well as acoustically, they sounded really interesting in that space. There was a kind of fit as well between the sort of metallic, almost brassy textures of a piece like Julian and Kanye, and the metallic and bright sound of the space, partly because of the materials.
So he wants his cowboys to sound like how he thinks cowboys should sound is a piece which I wrote in 2003 for the Neue Vokalist in Stuttgart, and I wanted to write 5 different pieces and sort of superimpose them one on top of the other so that they're happening simultaneously and separately. So that's why you have this lighting setting where you have blue, red, yellow light, the little lamps on the stage, and then the spotlight, which is deliberately off the performer, and that indicates whose sort of world you're in. And then of course there's lots of times where the worlds are all overlapping or coming simultaneously.
Are you? Because how are you?
Zusammen zwei is from a series of pieces that are all called Zusammen, which means together in German. They're pieces where I'm trying to create this sense of ensemble, usually with a lot of silence, but interweaving sonic directions as well as physical directions and putting them on an equal footing. And it was really wonderful to see how different people in the group last night were able to sort of own this identity, because to me how the stage was lit was really fantastic, and it felt like a play rather than a piece of music. And this is something I'm very interested in, is when something stops being a composition and starts being a play. And I don't mean in the sense that I think it does, I mean in the sense that we decide something's a play versus something being a composition. Because a huge amount of the way that I think about things is because I read a lot of Beckett plays, and I was very much exposed to Beckett as a teenager. And when I say I read a lot of them because there's no internet and you just had to read them and imagine how they went, and to me they were like musical compositions. Whereas with Silent Machines, watched over lovingly by Silent Machines, it's like it's a piece with a very prominent film part where the film is sort of a 6th voice. You have 5 voices on stage, and then the film adds this extra layer on top of it, so that you're composing with these elements. This visual element is just as important as the sonic element.
3.1 depends on time and therefore is called the time domain representation of the signal x over 4, whereas the Fourier transform depends on frequency and is called the frequency domain representation
of the signal 967
385. The term Fourier transform refers both to the frequency domain 3x gamma pi representation of the signal f863 and the process that transforms the signal to its frequency domain representation f times
f by x.
People who prefer the object to the noise of the street or 3 by 459 times f in mathematical terms. The 842 Fourier transforms on complex band.
Myself and Elizabeth are fascinated with new ways of combining text and music. That's sort of the remit of our company, Béal. That's what we set it up really to explore. You know, someone who's steeped in classical music, I grew up in that whole tradition. And I think what we like as classical musicians is we tend to be obsessed with kind of detail, and we love having huge amounts of detail to sort of process and perform. But at the same time, that can sometimes mean that composers who are writing idiomatically for, you know, classically trained musicians can sometimes create work that's to me anyway, seems a little conservative. So what's really really gratifying and sort of fulfilling about performing Jennifer's music is that it's written for, you know, classical performers, but it's taking those skills and applying them to these really different territories.
Will be cruelly discarded in the name of saving a few bucks, medieval or what? Load a moony doggin like Sickle Moon Productions foretold.
Over the course of the afternoon, both today and yesterday, we had a lot of pop-up performances which were really great, and it was really interesting to see the different audiences and people walking off the street and be confronted by Dominica and Eugene singing clips from David Lee Roth very loudly in their faces and responding very, very happily and joyfully to that.
So since we got the go-ahead, we knew that this festival was going ahead. I have been working on Jennifer's music myself at home, kind of going through different pieces, getting ideas. How do I want this to work? What's the best way of getting this to work? Where will we do this piece? What piece should go after what in the program? What's the best use of everyone's time? And then the last 2 weeks, we've been rehearsing in the lab in Dublin City Council's offices, and they have this amazing space full of light, wall-to-wall windows. It's really, really amazing. And the singers have been in with me, and it just felt like we've gone from being at home working at it to just suddenly loads of energy in the room. Everyone is on board, so enthusiastic, full of energy in the rehearsal room.
I am not such a debtor to the world, slandered and disappointed as I have been, as to give it that conviction. No, said he, my nose shall never be touched.
It's been a real pleasure for me to direct ensembÉal, a group of 16 singers, many of whom I work with frequently, and we really enjoyed this time coming together and working on this music. All the singers are, hugely experienced, all classically trained, and we've really kind of been working on a lot of these extended techniques and adding in theatrical stuff, and a lot of us work in opera, so it's been nice to kind of cross over between opera and with music.
Ovulation. Wow, this shit just came out of me. Biology is awesome. Control plus I, magical nature.
Get on, Brian! Just like, don't you ever just ever want to just go like, da-na-na-na-na. Like, don't you ever just want to go, get on! Let snow fall. Brian! Just don't you ever just want to go like, da-na-na-na-na. Like, don't you ever just want to go like, everything will be fine, I think that everything will be okay.
Catharsis? That means crying in Oprah's arms and being given a gift bag. Catharsis? That means a redefined private members club. It means articulating Chloe Savini's brand of removed cool. It means waiting for something to trend. It means populating your blog with content.
This evening's concert was focused on pieces for 16 voices, so pieces written for full chorus. So I first got to know Liz because Chamber Choir Ireland commissioned a piece for me called The White Noisery, and Liz was first soprano in that piece, and I got to know some of the other singers who were here tonight, who were performing over the last week and working very hard over the last week. And so it was really nice to see White Noisery done again, and Liz brought really new, fresh, beautiful things to the piece. So it's great to see the piece have another new life attached to it. And both the Duration and Its Simple Modes, which is the other 16 voice piece, and the White Noisery, I really want to create a community on stage, not just pitches that I'm writing, but that there's something happening. There's a sense that these people are together, that they're an ensemble.
And the ground was long, long dead, and the leaves were long, long dead. The stones were long, long dead. The dirt was long, long dead. I reached out my hand and he took it. I reached out my hair and he took it. I reached out my tongue and the wind took it. And it was stone. The wind turned into stone. The sky became stone, and the wind became stone. And the ground was long, long dead, and the trees were long, long dead, and the leaves were long, long dead, and the stones were long, long dead, and the dirt was long, long dead.
I dreamt of the fiction, hold fast, hold fast, hold fast, hold fast. I dreamt of the field, hold fast, hold fast. If you dream of a blanket, it's nothing. If you dream of a party, it's nothing. If you dream of a computer, it's nothing. If you dream of a glove, it is nothing. I dreamt of the system, hold fast, hold fast, hold fast, hold fast. I dreamt of the field, hold fast, hold fast. If you dream of a horse, there is nothing to see. If you dream of a clock, there is nothing to see. If you dream of a freeway, there is nothing to see. If you dream of a hand, there is nothing to see. I dreamt of the system, hold fast, hold fast, hold fast, hold fast. I dreamt of the field, hold fast, hold fast. If you dream of a mirror, it's nothing. If you dream of a robot, it's nothing. If you dream of a guitar, it is nothing. If you dream of a rabbit, it's nothing.